I think there was an interesting trend for me in 2017 was the increased interest in implicit bias. And that says something about where we are culturally, and what people are discussing, what we're facing as a culture. But what was so interesting for me is, of course, you know that we are experts in implicit association testing. And 10, 15 years ago, we took that method out of the behavioral sciences and we started to apply it to business to answer any question around what people either can't or won't tell you. We applied it to brands, we applied it to packaging, concept testing, all of those typical market research questions. But at its essence, implicit association testing was developed to tackle the issues of stereotypes and biases. Because when you're doing research on stereotypes that people hold, or biases that they have towards other groups of people, you can't rely solely on what they're willing to tell you in a survey. So researchers developed implicit association techniques to be able to measure how people really feel towards others without having to ask them any explicit questions. What's interesting for me is that we've now started to see that come full circle. We took it out of the stereotype and bias literature, applied it to business questions, and now those same businesses 10 years later are saying, we're actually interested in how our advertising is influencing people's perceptions of others. They want to understand implicit bias and how their marketing communications can actually help combat implicit bias. We did some great case studies on this in 2016 and 2017. Smirnoff, for example, has talked about this a lot with us, did a global study on inclusivity and understanding how their advertising can make people feel more inclusive towards others. It's a wonderful brand goal, something really aspirational, and was great for us as a team to be able to work on a business question like that. But in 2017, we started to see some additional interest from other clients and others that really want to tackle this idea of implicit bias or stigma. We saw it in consumer packaged goods. You saw some efforts by major consumer packaged goods companies, some that were very successful and others that failed. Take, for example, the Pepsi ad. The Kendall Jenner Pepsi ad. This was a significant and legitimate, genuine attempt by Pepsi to make some commentary and connect on the current cultural narrative. But unfortunately, they weren't successful at that. That ad aired for, I think, maybe 2 days, and it was pulled very quickly. Millions of dollars wasted, and significant brand damage that they're still trying to recover from. And it was actually a very good piece of creative, beautifully produced, a wonderful piece, but it didn't resonate with the millennial generation whom they were trying to speak to. And they were trying to tackle this idea of diversity and cultural inclusion, and they just weren't able to tell that story accurately. When we test that ad in particular, the implicit data shows that that's not going to be successful. And I think that companies are catching on. If you really want to make commentary and make an impact on that particular issue, you have to have research methods that allow you to measure what's happening for people at a non-conscious level. And implicit association measures do that. So when I talk about this coming full circle, it's now actually, can I have a business impact with my communications, but can I have a social impact with my communications? And implicit association research does both of those things. I'll give you some other examples of some companies that tried to do this in 2017. Heineken had a major piece that was trying to tackle the idea of inclusivity and diversity. Dove got into some trouble on its social media around racial issues. Both of those pieces, when you test them implicitly, give you insight into how they really are feeling about them in the marketplace, the consumer marketplace. And businesses are catching on. So they're saying, if I'm going to try to be part of this conversation, if I'm going to try to connect at a genuine level and actually combat implicit bias with my marketing communications, I need to have research methods that can tell me whether I'm doing that effectively or not. That was a great trend in 2017. I think we'll see more of it in 2018.